I'm a man who believed that I died 20 years ago, and I live like a man who is dead already. I have no fear whatsoever of anybody or anything.
Gary Webb. I am an investigative journalist, and in 1996 I wrote a series of stories entitled Dark Alliance, which was about CIA involvement in drug trafficking.
I knew a man who once said death smiles at us all. All a man can do is smile back.
We've both been skull and bone, the secret society.
It's so secret we can't talk about it.
What does that mean for America? The conspiracy theorists are going to go on.
I'm sure they are. I don't know. I haven't seen the rest.
Number 322.
I sad duty to report this afternoon that my friend and colleague, Tim Russert, collapsed and died early this afternoon.
I may die in this cell tonight or in the arena tomorrow. I am a slave. What possible difference can I make?
And no official of my administration, whether his rank is high or low, civilian or military, should interpret my words here tonight as an excuse to censor the news, to stifle dissent, to cover up our mistakes, or to withhold from the press and the public the facts they deserve to know.
What the fuck is up? Welcome to Already Dead, your favorite weekly live stream parapolitics variety show. Oh yeah, I forgot Colin in there. We have a lot of adjectives on this bit. We have BX with you today. I do want to remind you guys the format, usually about the first 45 minutes to an hour. We kind of shoot the shit about the events of the week or whatever we're spurging on recently. And the second half, about the second 45 minutes to an hour, we'll do call-ins, interact with the chat. So that's where we'll take questions. If you're a patron of me or Austin, you can hop in as a talking head alongside us. But we had a pretty fucking crazy week, and we're going to conspiracize a little bit. So I do want to kind of throw that out as a caveat. Not that I ever really... Huh?
Iran clearly did this, right?
Yeah, for real. I do want to provide a caveat that all these facts are still like very, 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 very early. This shit happened over the weekend. If you're living under a rock, the one of the major presidential candidates, Donald J. Trump, someone tried to shoot him. At least that's what we seem to believe, and that's what I believe at least. There are a lot of people who think it was staged, but yeah, here we are. It's a wild world we're living in. But yeah, the facts are still very early, so don't hold us to them too much. I wouldn't be the least bit surprised if like 30% of the things we talk about that we're like, we've seen this source or that source will maybe twist and change or be completely wrong in a week from now or later, because that's just the nature of this, early shit. So yeah, pleasure having you with us, BX.
Thank you guys. Happy to be
world.
back. I think when last time I was on, it was a different name, right? Was it?
Well,
Better
it's
Off
still.
Dead, or was it
This is like our joint project, me and Austin. Whenever he gets his YouTube up, it'll go out to his as well. But right now, he drops it on all his platforms as audio. Then I put the live stream on my Rumble and YouTube. It's just our weekly show we do together, but it falls under the banners of both of our shows in a certain way. It gets sent out to all our channels. So I'm still doing No Way Jose just on Tuesdays. I'm also doing a little Already Dead series, you could call it, within it. So here we are.
Love it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Jesus.
See, here we go. Oh, fuck, you're going to make me call. Yeah, call in, bud.
Yeah,
So
you got
thoughts. I'm still like, just process so much stuff, so much information coming at you like rapid fire. I'm at the point where I'm pretty sure the Secret Service is, I can't really write this off as being retarded. I don't know. BX, perhaps you, I guess we can dig right into it. Just kind of thoughts of the day when it comes to this. I don't know.
Yeah, this was just like, to me, obviously, like I've been investigating some really wild ass shit for the past couple of years, and everything always kind of just comes back to these kind of commonalities, right? Like, and I think that that moment. I mean, I was on the treadmill, right? I was like getting my pump on, obviously, and I almost fell off. Like it was, oh my God, like was yelling, like ran to my computer. I mean, and then I was kind of messaging people. We were like just throwing shit around because we didn't know what was going on. And I was like, I mean, I feel like I was in shock. Like, that was crazy. And to see him like get up like that, and then in that perfect pose, I was like, oh, this is going to be like a historic moment. Like, but also after like the adrenaline kind of settled down, what really sunk in was we came that close to, in my opinion, I think that there would have been a lot of civil unrest if Trump had died. I think that I don't know if we could have recovered from that. And then I started thinking to myself, like, man, that's how close we are. That's how one man's life is like the difference between our country on fire or, I guess relatively not on fire. And that was just like a really black-pilling moment, I think, for me.
Yeah, I tend to agree. It is, I guess now I was just thinking about it today, and part of me when this happened, I was like, oh, okay, cool. He survived. I mean, likely we'll go back to like this will simmer down. But then just kind of thinking, like, I don't know. Like, what does, because I mean, obviously, I guess it depends on who you think did this. I don't know about you guys. I mean, I guess I could probably assume Austin's on the same page with me here. I feel like you probably are, BX. I just straight up, I mean, yes, I guess it could literally just be the normal, like the stereotypical lone wolf that we get sold all the time. But
it's hard for me, man.
Refuse to believe that unless you give me an insane amount of, like I rule out everything, because it's like that seems the least plausible. That's like almost like an Occam's razor thing. The idea that this guy, I mean, I know BXU worked in like personal protection of some sort. I mean, I was, prior active duty military, and I remember talking to people who, protected VIPs. That was like cops that protected VIPs there, and that was specifically what they did. And like they told me just basic stuff that like about this, and you're like, this is just such an astronomical level of fuck up that I refuse to believe that it's just like, oh, it's all the woke shit. Like maybe, but like, don't get me wrong, I do think there is a crisis of incompetence in the government, but like there is to some degree. It's still like, all right, well, this is still the cream of the crop. Like, you don't have to be that fucking smart to feel like, hey, literally the best vantage point we should probably keep an eye on.
That's the first thing that came to my mind too, is like how incompetent, right? And there's going to be an investigation. And that we'll never see that investigation probably, because they'll say, oh, we can't let the tactics of the Secret Service for national security reasons. And like in the back of my mind, as much as I hate to admit that, it kind of makes sense, right? Like you don't want to expose all of the tactics that the Secret Service uses to protect the president. Like you can't do that. But in another side of my mind, I'm just like, they must be transparent with us, or else we'll never believe them, because we have no reason to believe them.
I don't know. I kind of disagree there. I mean, I just feel like, I mean, maybe there could be certain procedures, but generally speaking, I mean, while I'm just completely talking to my ass, I'm not someone who's ever worked in protection.
I mean,
feel
I
like
don't
a
know
lot of this stuff.
Service, so.
I don't think a lot of these methods are really that fucking, especially in pertaining to this. Like just a basic like protect from shooter, like what specific things could really be so confidential that you're doing? I get like things like Air Force One and how they do different tech things and this and that, whatever. But just basic like protecting someone from a shooter, I feel like that's probably, if I was to take a class on like protection of like, like individuals of some sort, likely VIP, this would probably be day one shit. This is like protection 101. So I don't
mean, with any industry like that, anytime you have a massive failure like this, it's going to be the example that's used for training from here on out, and in some ways, I do think that, it's possible it was like a combination of incompetence and somebody on the inside. Right. I've always kind of tried to, steer away from the conspiracies that say like the entire Secret Service is in on it, and it's like, or the entire FBI is in on it. Like that, it doesn't work like that. There's too many people. No. Like if there's anything going on, it's going to be layers and layers of obfuscation, right? And we'll probably, if that's the case, and there was some kind of inside conspiracy, we'll never know for sure. I mean, look at the JFK assassination. All these years later, we still don't know for sure, right?
Yeah, I mean, really, for an operation like this, I would feel like to be the Secret Service, and if you were just trying to let it happen, essentially, you'd probably really only need 1 or 2 key people that could enable that and really make sure that happens. Because, I mean, I'm assuming they're probably calling in people, hey, this guy, all you need is like kind of one central person who's the go-between, communications-wise, and voila, you got your op. Like, because, I mean, I don't know how true this is. Like I said, all the ground information. But I remember we were saying the guy, I believe the sniper on the roof, not the one who shot at Trump, but the Secret Service guy, I think he was actually a cop, but working for Secret Service or something like that. But I remember seeing something about how he had him as his sites. I've seen a few different places. I forget. I've lost track of all the different sources, all the things I've read. But I mean, if that were true, he's probably needs to get clearance of some sort. So it's like, hey, what are we doing?
Allegedly, that guy. I
do remember seeing a Reddit post, but I remember there being something else a little bit more substantive. The Reddit post is definitely not. But the point being is to provide that as an example to illustrate how all you would need is one person be like, oh no, we need to wait for the go ahead. Comms are out or.
Right. Yeah, he said he allegedly claimed that it was protocol to wait for clearance to shoot. Right. And so that is allegedly what he has personally come out and claimed, as far as I know. But
it's giving me Ruby Ridge vibes over here.
Right.
Who made that call or didn't make that call, right?
Yeah, it's very
John Horiuchi.
I think there are so many factors involved that kind of set the stage to allow this to happen. That is where I'm definitely questioning the narrative as far as it could very, very well have been a lie hop, a let it happen on purpose scenario, or right. It's like I just think that it's important to consider at the very least, because I don't know, at this level of politics, so more often than not, to me, it seems like there's a hidden hand of intelligence, typically always, especially with events that the consequences are to such an extreme level.
Deep events,
it's just like, it's hard for me to believe that legitimately the building that Thomas Cook climbed on.
Adam, could you bring up in the chat? There's the one that's like what CNN's currently claiming. I don't know who their source is, but it's kind of like this point of how ridiculous the narrative has kind of got you. But go on.
Well, I know that ABC News they claimed that Thomas Cook's climbed on top and fired from the staging area for the police tactical team, and that alone gave me pause. At the very least, it's strange as hell that would ever be. As far as like allowed
taking
to
a
happen,
smoke break, the guys that were there.
You hear Trump supporters who are like, "There's a guy up there," you know what I mean? Like
that was crazy.
It's just so
amazing.
They
for like 3 minutes.
Yeah,
and they're like, I kind of see something. Is it right there? No, that's a tree branch. It's to the left a little bit. I can't. It's like right there behind that tree branch, right there. They're just like,
right. And the narrative is they assigned. Basically, Jill Biden got the B squad, and then it was Trump who got the C squad Secret Service. Is that allegedly the case? Because that's what I've been hearing as far as the narrative.
Do you have the chat open right now? Is that what you're doing? You're boomering it up right now.
Exposed.
Oh my god! But that whole narrative of the shooter carrying this 12-inch ladder. Yeah, from Home Depot, walking a mile with an AR-15 and 50 rounds. Like, is
what else? Like, I had just this crazy moment because you guys know that I've done the Highland Park mass shooter was like my whale, right? That's the one that like I know in and out, and that kid's not gone to trial yet. I still know things that I haven't said publicly because I mean it's too much, right? Like with what they're trying to do right now, railroading him into taking a plea deal. And I mean, like, whew, all right, shit's spicy, right? Well, it was the exact same thing for him. They had said that he carried a ladder somehow, 3 miles from his house, carried a ladder, 2 AR-15s and all of that ammo in a backpack, got on the roof, and then fired all of the shots, and then he got off, then changed into woman's clothes, ditched the rifle, and walked away. And the time span at which the CCTV camera showed him walking was 30 seconds, like 30 seconds. Like there was no possible way. And so now I'm thinking back to that, and I'm just like, whoa, man. Like, we've got a ladder, we got the rifles, nobody saw him.
Oh, here we go. Here it is. I was just about to bring it up on my phone. Said, shooter carried 12-foot ladder, AR-15, 50 rounds. Which 50 rounds isn't much, to be fair. That doesn't really mean anything. It sounds like the liberal mind. You're like, oh my God, 50 rounds. You're like, yeah, you could probably put that in a cargo shorts pocket. But then walked a mile to Trump's rally. So, I mean, don't get me wrong. I think they hit a backpack. So I guess theoretically, like, that's going to be.
It could have been hidden.
Well, I mean,
not
unless AR's no.
It's so weird to have a ladder.
AR's not going to fit in a backpack.
Yeah, well, you break it in half.
Okay,
that's not a joke. Right. You like it separates, like you push a pin and it separate. Because that's how, like, because I remember.
Is this one with a breakdown pin? I don't think
all of them do. All of them do. Yeah. They separate the upper from the lower. The lower is the registered serialized part of the firearm.
Hey, great.
I don't think mine has a takedown, but I have a different. Whatever. All right. Anyways, but yeah. So there it is. I guess you could put in a backpack. But either way, the ladder, that's what really sells it. A fucking 12-foot ladder to carry them up.
I'm like somebody was like posting, well, they do make, these ladders now that are aluminum. And I'm like, but I saw the picture of the ladder and it looked like the one I have in my garage. And that motherfucker weighs like 70 pounds. Like,
right. Walking a mile with that thing.
Did you see? Hey, I posted a picture in Signal chat that kind of embodies this insane concept here, where it's talking about how to sneak onto a building full of police snipers. Method 1, using a ladder. Do you see that one? Yeah. So that's crazy. They're gonna have to do better than this,
Yeah.
Right.
And I also find it crazy that of all the people, all the witnesses, nobody actually saw him walking or putting the ladder up there, right?
That's absurd to me.
And you know what happened with Cremo? If we're saying, well, wow, the parallels are crazy. Well, what happened there is that they put out these early reports that the ladder was how he got up on the roof, but it turned out there were stairs and they didn't even use a ladder. So that early information, like a couple weeks later, ended up being incorrect, and they never corrected the record. So.
Someone brought up in the chat the second guy that had longer hair and kind of looked like him. I know there was another name going around for a while, and I never even saw where that name was coming from. I know there was a guy who looked like Toad out there, but that was like that was some fucking, like, I think, internet joke, kind of like a Sam Hyde thing.
Yeah.
But there was also a guy who looked kind of like him, but with longer hair, but clearly it's not him. Like,
it's a lot of conspiracy fodder.
Yeah, so. Yeah, I don't know where that name, because I saw it going around, but I never saw it anywhere official. But I saw it being, but that's how everything is. So I'm like, I don't fucking know. I know this seems to be what we settled on, but it's kind of like even now I think I don't know to what, we can actually see this, like the specifics other than trust me and kind of a bloody face. I think that's kind of where we're at right now. I mean, I don't know if you have any thoughts on that. I mean, huh?
If this was a movie, I'd walk out.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is.
I mean, yeah. I have a lot of theories. Obviously, people are gonna blame deranged anti-Trump person for this right away, and when they come out and say, "Oh, we're still trying to find the motive," a lot of people were really mad. Like, obviously, the motive is they wanted to kill Trump. Right. But I think that the FBI is considering the fact that this could have been something more like an intelligence operation, or it could have been something that was driven by accelerationists who knew that by killing Trump, you would literally throw the country upside down into complete civil unrest. And that was, like, honestly, the closest we've come to the accelerationists winning with their collapse. Dreams coming true. And how long have they been doing the mass shootings that don't really accomplish anything, do they? They're starting to realize that mass shootings aren't going to do it. And I've been warning for a long time that mass shootings have been slowing down. I don't know if you guys noticed that, but mass shootings have been slowing down. And I'm thinking to myself, what they're probably realizing that they're not really working to collapse society like they wanted. And what are they planning? You know?
Yeah, I wouldn't be. I'd be lying if I didn't say that. One of the first things across my mind was the accelerationist or whatever. I know you've been following 764 and those guys for a while, and I believe maybe I'm recalling correctly, but I believe I saw somewhere you're saying that their tactics have kind of changed a little bit since they've kind of gone busted for their kitty stuff they were doing.
If a 764 member pulled that off, I would be floored.
Well, yeah, I more mean, I
yeah.
guess that network of accelerationists, essentially, generally, I know a lot of them, whether it be O9A or whoever, it seems like there's been I don't know, maybe there's more of a push to kind of infiltrate. Huh?
Yeah, it could have been one of them.
Yeah.
The 764 stuff, they were the ones who were swatting Lucas Gage.
Yep.
So I had gotten an early tip off to that, but I had a bunch of shit come up and I didn't really look into it until somebody else sent me a tip and it was somebody I knew. And I was like, oh, whoa, you're right. Like, oh yeah, they did that. So yeah, they are doing some more high profile kind of stuff to ruffle people's feathers, but 764, they're mostly just pranksters and like stupid, misguided kids. And I think a lot of them are teenagers with a few adults in the room who definitely need to go to jail for life. But at what point do we start to think of these teenagers as victims themselves when they're like 13, 14 years old, But then you've got these other people who are in their early 20s and they're getting sucked into like these Telegram channels that are, they might have started in this calm community with 764 and these other kind of cyber criminal kids, and then become increasingly more extreme, where they could have been isolated and groomed by one of the big boys, and they're there. It's like if you're looking into an aquarium and you're seeing a bunch of little feeder fish and guppies floating around, and then the sharks just come through every now and then. That's the atmosphere in those Telegram channels. And we've identified some of these people who we believe are, grooming kids to commit domestic terror attacks. So it's very real. I feel like 2 years ago when you said this, people would call you crazy. But now most people are kind of coming around to this. And I think the FBI and law enforcement agencies are coming around to it too, because I've heard a lot more mentions of accelerationism in the law enforcement and counterterrorism spaces. So they're starting to pick up on it.
Yeah,
finally.
I know my opinions a little bit. The call might be coming from inside the house on both sides of that. I mean, I do think that it's not as we've said before, whenever we say some entity is doing something, we don't mean the entire entity. So when I say like the Secret Service or this, I don't mean all of them. So I wouldn't be surprised if there are feds that maybe they aren't explicitly, trying to push people to violence, but they're nudging them that way to do stings or some justification or, justify more funding. And on the other end, whether with these O9A things, I wouldn't be surprised if you dig down the layers, and we kind of have. There is sort of, you may find a little bit of influence there too. It's kind of a vicious circle, but within all these entities, there are going to be organic individuals. Even within like the feds, there's going to be people who, are the beat guys. Think they're doing the right thing, don't realize the ways they're being manipulated.
So and I've seen a lot of this side too. Since I've been in here hanging out for so long, and thanks to Ken's research, which has just been phenomenal. And that's the reason that we can't ever fully exclude the feds, is because there's so much evidence of them doing stuff like this. Not only like agents, but informants. And, I have kind of a more nuanced take about that, but, the informant program has been effed up for a while, and there's been a need for reform for a while because it's very compartmentalized and like, it's very secretive, right? So like the identity of confidential informant, it's not just like known widely by everybody. It's known by the people who need to know, like their handlers and stuff. And their handlers are agents who are looking for a big bus so that they can take it to their boss and get a promotion. And so there's an incentive to get more and more bigger and bigger information. So these confidential informants, the best ones are criminals, right? People who are deep in, and you can even maybe manipulate them or compromise them or pay them to give you information. But the problem is that when those guys keep committing crimes, their handler is inclined to look the other way because, you know, he's relying on that information. He doesn't want to lose his lead. So there's a lot of corruption in that confidential informant program. But at the same time, I think it's kind of a psyop to say that it's all feds. And I the reason I say it's a psyop is because I've noticed that when you see one of these things happening, like I'll put out a video, right? A deep dive of some kind of mass shooting or something. And I'll get all these comments that are like, it's just the feds. So who cares? I'm not even gonna watch your dumb video because it's the feds. And it's like this, it stops you from looking deeper and trying to figure more things out because you just throw up your hands and go, oh, it's just the feds, right? But I think what we found is that there's, like you said, layers to it, right? Intelligence agencies from all over the world. I still don't think that America is its own worst enemy. I think that we still have a lot worse enemies out there. And I think that they're employing all the same tactics.
Oh, you mean like foreign entities or like kind of more domestic?
You
crazies?
got ISIS, you got China, you got North Korea. All these guys are out there. You know, why wouldn't they be doing the same things, you know, pushing for a collapse of the U.S. from inside?
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, I guess, yeah, I mean, to some extent. I mean, I know when they dug deep into the Russian stuff, I don't know your take on that. It seemed to be that stuff is a little bit overblown, but there is truth to it as well. I mean, obviously, every country's doing it to each other. We're just kind of the
everybody.
We're just kind of the biggest dick on the block. So,
well, the ones that I've been chasing are Eastern European neo-Nazis, Ukrainian even, who don't like Trump. Those guys are accelerationists and they want to see they're not like you think, oh, Ukraine's our allies, but there's like factions of extremists out there who aren't pro-America. Like they want the West to fall for their own personal reasons in their own countries.
Yeah, so we're just talking Gladio essentially. I mean, whether you want to say it's coordinated or not, okay? Because we have the chat being like, I think BX is a Fed. Like no, I mean, like you'd still say like that's okay. No, we're just going to a bigger intelligence agency.
Yeah, no, we're not talking about like it, you know. And I'm not also not giving the FBI or any federal agencies like leniency here. Like I do believe, like in some of the situations where Ken has showed us unequivocally that it is the Feds. Like without a doubt, they are doing certain things like that. But I think that to close our minds off to the possibility of something else is a mistake because personally, I have seen this other layer and these other people who don't appear to be feds. And they're, somebody in chat says Azov. And yes, that's a real thing. And the people who, adhere to Azov, even here in the States, are real.
Yeah, but then you see how the connections, and it seems to be some sort of global, not necessarily not a singular entity, but a bunch of groups that have similar incentives working together, and you can string those together and call that, conveniently Gladio or whatever you want, because even Gladio had elements of the church, the Vatican had elements of organized crime. So these, these entities work hand in hand a lot of times, and you never know. Like who specifically is the one who has the most incentive, who's really making the call on these things. But yeah, I guess I get what you mean where it's not necessarily, I guess you could say it's CIA incorporated, on a global level, essentially something like that, or even something bigger than that. I think a lot of times they've called them the Enterprise. I think that's what in Whitney Cummings' book, she called them. I've heard it referred to that other places as well, where they call it, that's the way that people try to understand it is if you want to kind of look at it from a big picture, kind of connect the dots type way.
I would dedefinitely look towards the CIA before I looked at the FBI for sure.
Oh yeah, for sure. I know a lot of people want to because I talk about OKC a lot. Everyone wants to be like, a lot of people seem to lean into that like, oh, I think that they did it, and like my opinion is I think they were doing PACON, and I've said, and I'm not going to try to explain it. I've done a lot of talks on this my show, so you guys can go check that out elsewhere. But I think that it likely may have got infiltrated by some sort of other op. So I mean, if you have like an FBI op that's their job is like to do stings or to kind of push people a certain way or whatever, but they're not actually trying to instigate legit crime. All it takes is one, as we were saying before with like the example of the Secret Service, it takes like one person. You insert one or two people in this op, and now it's live. The going theory is that there were, actually it's not even a theory. There very clearly were 2 Ryder trucks, but one of the theories is that on the day of they swapped the Ryder trucks because one of the Ryder trucks probably had some sort of like tracking thing on it, and then that way they sent them on a wild goose chase while they went to a different place, because there's been a lot of murmurs from different entities or different individuals that they thought that it was going to be the courthouse that was going to be hit at an hour when no one would be there. And so they probably would likely stop it, and even if somehow they didn't stop it, no one would be there anyways. And then they swapped looks like they may or may not have swapped the trucks, pulled a little switcheroo and did it during normal hours. And so like, how did that happen? Seriously, clearly someone changed some plans somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, when I guess we forgot to mention that he had the bomb building materials in his car. You mentioned the truck, and now I'm thinking of like, this is such a formula, right? This is not just some disgruntled person who got like, this is the formula. He
had a remote like detonation device in his pocket, right? Isn't that also a part of the report? I don't know. Like, to me, I honestly I need to see more details clearly, but I got significant vibes of like James Holmes and Stephen Paddock in a way, honestly, just to a certain extent.
Based on a physiognomy check?
Brother, I'm just being honest. Like, when his parents are like legitimate therapists, since like 2002, both of them were like verified counselors.
Really? This guy?
Oh yeah, 100%. Like there's a report I read today that basically Mary Elizabeth Crooks and Matthew Bryan Crooks of Bethel Park, Pennsylvania, are licensed as professional counselors according to the Pennsylvania Department of State Licensing System Verification Service. And the rapists, exactly. So that my instinctual reaction was James Holmes,
There's always something like that. That's another part of the formula.
I can't handle it because then I'm getting all these DMs and I'm talking to buddies about they're hitting me with all these different lines of interest and the idea that really all we can track down is that he had a Discord. At this point, he has largely been a ghost, and most of his socials have been completely scrubbed. And so that is,
and the FBI is currently saying they can't break his phone because it's too like.
This is
such high tech encryption.
All the hallmarks, my friend. Right? I mean, I'm just saying, pattern recognition is real, and when you notice the playbook, you have to consider it, and you have to at the very least acknowledge it.
Yeah.
And I'm in no way saying, like, speaking in certain terms as if I have the answers and I've concluded that this is what the op was. But I think it's important to at least, entertain the idea, and 100% it's up to people like us to consider it out loud. Otherwise, I think if you're at least attempting to be objective, then I think that good intentions matter more than anything. And all that I think is that how many times can I'm going to learn from my past research, and I'm going to remain skeptical, and I'm not going to fall into the partisan trap and play the Trump savior syndrome, which is just as real as Trump derangement syndrome. And I'm under no illusion. I'm not going to delude myself into believing that one individual can rise to prominence and save all of mankind from this.
That's how we got QAnon. Let's not.
100%,
guys,
man.
Please.
Which, by the way, apparently QAnon made a post predicting the shooting.
Yeah, I saw it.
Allegedly, which is just so
A bunch
funny
of
to
cute
me, man.
people were retweeting my Jade Parker story today. I don't know who retweeted it in that circle, but I was like, oh God, please.
To be fair, with the Q drops, they dropped a bunch of those, right? They'd be dropping all the fucking time. So
Well,
it's
when you
like,
flood the
yeah, it
landscape,
does.
it's
Yeah,
hard
it's
not to
normal.
be right.
yeah.
Sometimes.
So it's kind of the idea when people look at, like, say something like Revelation, and they're like, oh my God, look, China
Right.
is the whore of Babylon or whatever. And you're like,
Mhm.
yeah, but you're just like interpreting these things. Like, and like if you say enough crazy things, so enough
Yeah, it's
people
like
will interpret it one
mentalism,
way. Yeah.
right? Like mentalism, where the people go to the crowd and they predict things about the audience members. It's like a parlor trick.
Definitely.
Yeah, and
But
people aren't going to see the misses. They're going to see the ones that are like, oh my
exactly.
God,
Yeah.
look at that.
Yeah.
Which, I don't know, maybe Q's onto something. I mean, I guess, don't be wrong, you always end up seeing some shit like, oh my God, they predicted this.
Dude,
But
you
people
know
say
it.
the same things with, like, Alex Jones. Like, he was right about
Oh,
so many things. And he was, but there's also
said
a lot of shit that he was
things.
off.
By the
He
way,
said a lot of things.
is the cognitive dissonance not just at a heightened state? Like, honestly, as far as in regard to the public reaction to this, because seeing the very same people who defended Alex Jones, calling for the Alex Jones treatment for individuals who are, yeah, okay, maybe you view it as an outlandish conspiracy theory, but they're questioning the reality of the event. And to me, it's like, good for them. You know, it's like,
I'm not
know
gonna lie.
it's
Immediately
usually
right off the bat,
yeah.
I was like, my first thought, I mean, as schizo as it was, because the first thing I usually do is who benefits from this the most, and I was like,
Oh, 100%.
is there? My first thing was like, is there any way Trump could have done it? Just to run it through my head. Not saying I concluded that or anything. It was just one of my first thoughts, and like, I mean, at first it's kind of like, what information do we know? I don't think so. That seems like too many factors to control to be able to pull that off. Because I mean, obviously, I feel like I'm pretty sure someone died. So it's like, so, and like, I guess you could say, I know everyone goes, oh, you're being ridiculous about like, oh, they had a sniper that shot that good. If it was fake, that wouldn't be the case. It would be some sort of fake blood or something. But it's like, but then you'd have to like off some of the crowd. It's just too many factors.
I saw
too
the
many
video,
factors.
bro, and it was pretty awful to watch.
I know.
The family screaming.
Yes,
and,
it's too many
pretty
factors.
ugly.
It would be. It would be way
I
too
also
much.
think it's at the very least it's interesting to entertain, like, how would they get away with this op if it was entirely staged? And then also, what was the end result they were hoping to achieve? And I was just kind of like playing out different scenarios in my mind, and so just again, when it all first happened, before any details were out, before I knew someone had died, like, I will be 100% honest. I felt like Dave McGowan in the middle of the Boston Marathon when I saw just merely like, and by the way, if you haven't researched the Boston Marathon and you haven't been exposed to his approach and perspective on what happened and potentially happened that day, I mean, we're talking, blood squibs, fake prosthetics, right? Like, we're talking legitimately like crisis actors that are working with the DHS and things of that nature, which clearly, say whatever you want about that. But I do think that at the very least, I've always loved Dave McGowan's work. And so the first thing I noticed was the strange way Trump touched his ear, went down and looked like dropped something on the podium, and then went back down to the ground. And it's like, look, I can see how people would be under the impression, and especially if they had some sort of incentive to believe it to be fake, whether that's ideologically driven or whatever the case may be. I fully understand why people would question the reality of that. That's my only consideration and point, because, and I think it's important to make that point, because I just saw this knee-jerk reaction of over-emotional reaction and anger, and again, the cognitive dissonance, right? You're calling for people to be sued by the victims' families because they have the audacity to not buy the official narrative at face value. And maybe you think their line of questioning is preposterous and ignorant, but it's still like we can't be shaming each other and condemning each other for having a difference in opinion, questioning an event like this. That's
especially when it's important. Theoretically possible. I mean, I don't think it's plausible, but it's theoretically possible to pull off.
Yeah.
But it's,
For
I
sure.
don't think it's plausible
No,
at
me
all.
neither.
I mean, I will say initially when it was just the all you saw was the shot, I was like suspicious, and then more stuff came out, and I was like, no way. There's no way. It'd be too many things. I mean, but whatever.
Me
Who
too.
fucking knows?
I was in shock though at first, and I was like, "It's an op! It's an op! How's this a psyop?" I like
Right.
like it's so funny. You could look at my signal chats where I was messaging my friend. I was like, "It's got to be fake. This is fake, right?" And he's just like, "You need to calm down." I was like, "Bro, I was like in shock." Now I'm looking and I'm like, "Yeah, there's no way that shit was real."
Yeah.
Like it looked real. So I was like, "Yeah, that's crazy."
I was just like through my kind of thought experiments though. I was just trying, just based on my exposure to previous events like this, like previous assassinations or mass shootings or whatever the case is. I was just kind of considering how would they get away with this, and what if the end result was in favor of Trump, was to run it as a false flag in order to bolster his reelection, whatever
That's
the
what I
case, to give him a blank
That's what
check.
immediately
'Cause-
came to me too.
yeah.
But
Right.
Yeah.
And everyone
so
acts like
just hear
Israel
me out.
hates
This
him,
is the
but he
only-
always talks like the biggest Israel thing, and that would be
Right.
like the move. He reinvigorates faith in the
100%.
nation. He comes
Biggest
back,
cut for
all
of
Israel.
all time.
Yeah, and then but while being like he probably would leave Ukraine, that way he can have that win. So I could just see their conservatives, all the improvements they've made over the past 4 to
Right.
8 years, and kind of being a little bit not as shitty. And now he comes in, and if especially he was the guy who pushed the bump stock thing, and he just got
dude,
shot.
right
I don't
after
know how
Vegas.
he's going to be now. Like, is he going to be fucking? I mean, like on the
Hey,
plus
man.
side, he might come back like with a vengeance against the feds. But I mean, I'm not too. I mean, even
don't
after
think
all the
so.
shit he did, they did
Yeah.
to him. He was promising a fucking big ass FBI building before this. So like, I mean, and obviously he's probably not thinking the FBI did it. So it's like, I don't know. I guess from a realistic political perspective, I'm like, what is he really gonna do? Like, I mean, he's not. I don't think he's gonna be the great white savior everyone thinks he's gonna be.
No, not
but,
at all.
I mean,
Especially JD Vance. Come on, bro. I mean, are you serious? That's just, and I just to me, like, come on. He's over here ratcheting up tensions immediately, like calling for dropping bombs and shit. I mean, it's just to me. And then also, what was that ridiculous that Jewish guy serenading him at the RNC was just hilarious.
Oh,
as far as the
apparently
optics.
that was from something else.
It was
So
okay.
Yeah, there was a few things that
there's
have
a
like
lot of
yeah.
crazy psyop disinformation. Fake
right,
shit,
so much
like,
going on right
yeah,
now.
like
100%.
it's the Jews thing that's the number one, and then there's the
Oh.
women thing, like the
Oh, yeah, with the
anti-women,
Secret Service.
like
I
there's
know,
all
right?
these fake.
Yeah, those are the
TikTok
two you gotta
posts
watch
and
out
shit.
for.
Yeah,
She can't even
that's
holster her
those are
weapon.
heavy influence ops. So whoever's behind them is like,
Oh yeah, for sure. But by the way, to that point, there is this hilarious.
By the way,
theory
that was a
that-
joke. I was saying you have to watch for the Jews and the women. That was a joke, guys. you guys all missed it, but go on.
I didn't hear it, dude. But it's hilarious because there's this report by the ADL that all these users on, and I have seen a couple of the posts on Telegram and X, claimed that the shooter Crooks was seen wearing a Kabbalah bracelet, right? A red string and a recognizable symbol of Jewish mysticism movement. And at the time of the shooting, and allegedly others accused the Secret Service sniper, who they say hesitated before shooting the would-be assassin, of wearing the very same bracelet. So I just thought that that's a hilarious angle because it involves the Kabbalah and the Jewish esoteric occult, basically. But it's
real
just
quick,
hilarious to me.
that Highland Park shooter stuff too.
I
There
just
you
remember
go.
this. I have no idea if it's true or not, but it went viral, so it must be true.
Of course.
But they're saying apparently, don't get me wrong. If this ends up being true, this will throw me for a loop. But apparently, that like photo of him with his fist up, that's like really like obviously it's like kind of that's his re-election right there. Like that's fucking political gold. Apparently, that's the same guy who the guy who took the picture is the same one who took the picture of
I saw
Bush,
Raven post that.
Bush
Of
at
what?
the fucking at 9/11. You know the
dying.
9/11 one where Bush is getting told at the elementary school while he's reading to little
God.
kids.
Or whatever.
Apparently, it's the same photographer. I'm like, dude, what the fuck? If you had told me that like right at the beginning,
All right, well, let's be rational.
know what I
He's
thought,
a
though?
presidential photographer.
That's true.
You
But
know,
you know what I thought
but
is, and
Still nuts.
instinctually, I went to the Boston Marathon
you only
bombing
bring your
because
best
guess
out for
what?
that one.
The guy who got the infamous wheelchair parade of Carlos Arredondo and I forget the guy's name, but the victim, but when he's being ran down when allegedly his legs were blown off and he's being ran down to the EMT tent and everything. I just found it interesting that the guy who caught the most iconic shots from the Boston Marathon bombing, right where everything happened, was the same guy who would just so happen to catch the iconic shot of the first plane hitting the tower, right, and was right underneath the tower when the shot happened in 9/11. So it was the same exact situation, the same guy. And by the way, he knew Carlos Arredondo for years before this, and then acted as if he didn't know him. Who was the I forget, he's like a Puerto Rican guy or something wearing a cowboy hat, who got super, famous from the event when it happened. But anyway,
I think Netanyahu just has a few guys he goes to. And he goes, "Hey, just show up to this event. Just trust me."
Right.
Yeah.
CIA taps him on the shoulder.
But like, you know how we were talking about like the bomb, right? So that's something too that I feel like comes up a lot in these kind of, and I feel like a lot of people don't hear about it as much. But when I've been looking into mass shootings for a long time, and
they always have explosives.
There's the explosives in the car or in the house in the case of the Highland Park shooter.
That's really serious.
That's a big indicator that they weren't just like that, we feel like that's a way more likely sign that they were groomed online. And I got a lot of pushback about this earlier. People were like, well, he could have just looked it up on the internet. And yeah, sure. Okay. But the thing is that we've been watching these kind of Telegram channels, and that goes back to his, like, okay, he had a Discord. They said that they removed the account and didn't have anything recent on it. And people are acting shocked that he doesn't have social media. But one thing I've learned, speaking of going back to like relying on our research, right, to make conclusions. But one thing I've learned since delving into the 764 world, man, kids are good at anonymity online now. They're really good at it. And it's actually pretty hard because, like, I don't know if Austin like knows kind of the story, but I was being threatened by, I still am being threatened by some of these guys, but I was being threatened by them and I had to make a police report and stuff. And that's where I started to learn just how hard it is for them to, number one, get a warrant. In this case, obviously that's not an issue, right? Number two, for them to actually like what they do is they ping the social media platforms that their account was on, and they get all of their data, and they use that data to get their phone numbers, their emails, addresses sometimes, and names and stuff like that they use to make those accounts. And then they use that stuff to basically just, keep unraveling and finding more of their online footprint. And we can do that to a limited extent too via just OSINT work, but the feds and the police can actually get it from the platforms themselves. But if they're using a burner phone to, get on Telegram, and there's no trace of that burner phone, maybe he burned it or he threw it out the window, gone. You're never going to find that. Really, they use, VPNs now and Tor, and they're really, really good at keeping their footprint offline. So it's not surprising to me at all they didn't have an online footprint. That just tells me that maybe possibly he was in some more nefarious channels, because the more nefarious it gets, the more likely you are to see people going to those measures to hide their footprints.
Yeah, the current story, at least from my understanding, this is all very new, is that, he didn't have a social media footprint, but he did have a Discord. But supposedly they shut down his account, and then but they sent the information over to that was in there over to law enforcement, and there was nothing. Supposedly, is the current official narrative.
That's not surprising,
Yeah, I think I saw you or commenting on that or something.
Because we were talking about people will seize on anything to be like, see, it's a conspiracy, and you're like, but there is actually a really good explanation, and the explanation is that whatever device they're on right now, whatever email they had that they linked to his Discord is not the one he was using. He probably had a Telegram account And, speaking of Telegram accounts, there was a couple months ago, I started to speak out about these people. You remember the Virginia Kekawa stuff?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. So, you know how that guy was sharing IED manuals?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Well, we had seen a lot of people, or certain people who were affiliated with Order of Nine Angles, also sharing IED manuals with disturbed kids in these chat rooms. And the chat rooms that they're sharing them in, well, they're, a lot of them are the pro-Ukrainian Azov connected neo-Nazi stuff. Yes, neo-Nazis are real. I know everybody hates that word, but like they do actually exist. They're just super rare and fringe, and it's not a common place, right? Especially in America. But there's also a lot of people who are more on the, I guess, anarchist side. A lot of them are just very anarchist. I want to see everything burn. And those are another type of, accelerationists. And there's these Antifa kids who are real violent, and all of these people, by the way, I would put on the far left. I wouldn't call them far right. I would call them far left, because these guys are just, you talk about horseshoe theory, kind of coming real close to each other. But I would call them far left. And these Telegram channels,
these Nazi type. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but like to add to your point, I've seen some of these Nazi types, and they are usually weirdly kind of lefty, like very respect your pronouns, that kind of shit.
Right.
Like we.
Well,
like,
think about it.
Like,
nowadays, a 20-year-old, is he more likely to be far left or far right?
Yeah.
So
well,
the
I don't know. Actually, that's up for the mayor. Yeah. I've heard people say the right's super big now, but the vulnerable, I think it's gonna be literally
they're a little older.
disaffected lefties.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Just what I've seen. Maybe it's just because I've been in these little channels where there's just tons of these, like you said, disaffected lefties. Yeah. It doesn't really matter because, as Jade Parker has said, accelerationism is ideologically agnostic. So it doesn't really matter to them. Like right and left is just a puppet show. And whatever they can exploit, they will. It doesn't matter if it's on the right or the left. But I do think that it's incorrect. Just like I would say it was incorrect to blame the Republicans for mass shootings that were attributed to like these white supremacy accelerationists. It's also wrong to blame the Democrats for these fringe far left, And one thing that's driving me crazy with all of this is just the hypocrisy. Just the hypocrisy has just been something that's above and beyond with, the right going out of their way to cancel people online and, blame the Democrats for these far left extremists. And they're basically doing all the same things that they complained about.
You don't believe the online safety bill was for our children to protect us?
No.
I know, right?
I think it's obvious that was a foot in the door.
Yeah.
Because there's other
in the direction to the totalitarian technocratic state, right? I mean, basically. Yeah. Okay.
No, I've talked about this extensively. I talked about this with Shane Cashman not too long ago because I've done a lot of child advocacy. That's what I'm doing the 764. I mean, there's child victims there. But big tech could take all kinds of easy steps to quell the child exploitation on their platforms and don't. And then government comes in and seizes on the fact that those companies won't do anything to push out these online safety bills where they're basically trying to get ID verification and like you said, this technocratic systems. And Elon Musk has already come out and said, we're all on board for the online safety bill.
PayPal mafia.
Like, at the same time that he's shilling for the online safety bill, he's not doing anything to actually stop child exploitation on his own platform, which is causing the need for it in the first place.
All right, guys, we're going to swap over to the call-in portion / interact with the live chat. I do want to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you by Nadeau Shave Co. If you're tired of that razor burn, irritation, and grown hairs, you need to get this the Nadeau Shave Co. Big Shave has been stopping the American people for decades with their expensive multi-blade razor scam. Go back to traditional stuff. You don't need that expensive nonsense. It's high quality. You can shave like your granddad used to. It's a twist open handle with traditional safety razors make the changing blades simple and safe. Whether you're shaving your entire face or just edging up your beard, our single blades provide a barber-grade shave for a fraction of the price. You guys see my face. I don't have the horrible beard I usually have. Sometimes I use this recently. Yeah, this is really economical. I actually really do dig this thing. You get 100 in stainless steel razor blades in your standard issue. It's supposed to last you for the year. I mean, I could definitely squeeze out a lot longer. That's ridiculous. That's $75. Or if you're someone who shaves on the regulars, you can go to the Quarter Shave Club and pay only 25 cents per replacement blade. He sent me their shave soap here soon. I'll let you guys know how that is when it comes in. But I'm sure it's good stuff. But NadeauShaveCo.com for all your grooming needs. Use Jose at checkout for your entire order. Don't forget, these guys support me. So if you want to support me and you want to get something in the process, there you go. Also, this guy, his company was born out of refusing the COVID mandates while he's in the military. So give him some ups for that. Go over there and check it out at NadeauShaveCo.com. All right, let's get into the calls and such. Here's the number, 941-281-5857 if you do want to call in. Keep in mind, I still haven't figured out how you guys can talk. Like, they can hear you, but you can't hear them. So keep in mind, it's basically going to be me and you talking. Ask the question, and we'll send you on your way. Unless you're a patron, you can hop in the StreamYard with us. But until then, we'll just hop into the chat, start seeing what they have to say in there.
Are they still calling me a Fed?
Probably.
I think we got past that. I don't know.
Yeah. Someone already brought up the psychological doctors. Yep. Yeah, I did see in the chat earlier, someone brought up about the I don't know why. They said that there's telescopic ladders that would fit in a bag, and I'm like, but I don't feel like a 12-foot one.
12 feet, yeah, man.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
like I've never.
crazy.
It's like a cartoon where you're like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It would have to. It would be such thin metal it would break under your weight. Like I don't understand how you could. I've worked on a lot of ladders in my life, and I don't think I've ever seen. And they've seen collapsible ones, but never like that. So I don't know. Maybe they do make something like that. I've never seen it.
Have you guys seen any more details on all the different, like just plausible ideas as far as all the different reports of multiple shooters?
Yeah, I've seen a couple of those. I don't know.
Individuals falsely identifying like teams of snipers as as additional shooters, or because my only thought as far as in regard to that theory of multiple shooters is that it does, at the very least, lend a little more credibility to the operational playbook as far as like there could, and again, as well as the debate over like the trajectory of the bullets, which I found to be interesting. And I'm no weapons expert. BX, you probably know better than I do as far as certain aspects of this. But all my only consideration was that, and again, I haven't really dug into any of the details in regard to the trajectory debate, which I have heard certain people make comments on. But my only consideration is that, okay, if the kid were a patsy, let's say, then one part of the strategy, which just as far as, again, what I've seen more than once, including the JFK assassination, which is you have tactical teams stationed in different locations, and basically you have multiple shots occurring at the same time, right? And so it's like one could very easily serve as, even if they were, let's say, firing blanks like Sirhan in the pantry at the Ambassador to provide a distraction, while the other is, let's say, covertly hidden at a certain location firing the shots, right? So all I'm saying, these are just kind of working ideas, conspiracy theories, clearly, but it's just, you could at the very least play a thought experiment where this is a plausible narrative. That's my only,
All right, guys, we have a caller. We can come back to that in a second. I don't want to keep him waiting too much longer. Hello, caller. You're on with Already Dead with Jose and Austin and our guest BX. What's up, man?
What's going on, everybody? No, I'm just calling in again. You already know, or Austin already know. Yeah, hopefully he knows. It's the Raid Child. Just
the Raid Child.
Kind of a quick little piece, just kind of on how I've been so just taken back and turned around and flipped over a barrel about everything recently, as far as when everyone says it's staged, and I'm kind of like, I'm not opposed to the idea, but, and I'm sure you know the same feeling when you've gone this long into this kind of, tunnel, and you point out certain, almost every important political or event just in general that has changed the trajectory of America, and you see how things are staged, and it's so, like, where you're like, oh, you could be like, it's staged, and people are like, well, somebody died. And it's like, yeah, okay, I understand people died. That doesn't mean it wasn't an entire stage setup. I'm not saying this one has its potential as far as the attempted assassination on Trump, because the pieces are there. It's like any other thing where they let something go on for so long, or someone's yelling out, look, this, they're pointing out things and no one reacts right away as you think they should. But that goes to how we watch movies, and we think everything's like, oh, it should be boom, boom, bat. And, and then you spout this truth or not for so long, and everyone calls you mother shit for the longest time, and then all of a sudden now those people are coming around and be like, this is stage, look, blah blah blah. But you can't even, once you be like, okay, so what do you think about this, or what do you think about that? The things you've been calling me some kind of batshit loon for the last 20 years till 9/11, and it gets worse. I mean, when it comes to any kind of shooting, it gets a little rough around the edges. But like, basically what I'm saying is like, okay, you're so close, but you are only pigeonholing yourself to this one scenario, and for better or for worse, it's like, which they probably will not go further into it as far as looking into other situations that are, hand quotes, allegedly staged, which, you can see how we'd get to that assumption. And yeah, I'm just saying how like crazy, which I guess you think I don't know what this past weekend would have brought to Americans. I don't know if I doubt it was going to bring us together, but you think we can come together in this one situation where it comes like, maybe they're willing to do a lot of things for their greater good, regardless of the lives of us Americans, or just people in general, to get what they need to get. And you could, I've been, and I'm sure you all feel the same way, or I'm not speaking for y'all, but I'm just saying in general, of how the things we've seen, the things we research, and you see like, wow, all these lives lost for what? And then now they're just saying it like it's the new TikTok trend, but they're never gonna fucking take their head out of their ass to see the rest of, the bigger picture, and all come around to see like, holy shit, we have bigger problems than each other. And yeah, I'll leave it at that. It's just kind of what has been bugging the shit out of me for the last couple of days, where it's like,
Well, that's been
okay,
bugging
you
that
can
shit
say
out of me
this
for
is
years,
something
man.
Right.
staged, but everything I've said for the last 15 plus 20 plus years, I'm the fucking psychopath. And so just
Yeah,
one of
I
those
mean,
things
just look
that
at
has been bugging
everybody
me.
fighting
And,
each other.
and plus, I love the show. My son's in the room. He's fucking listening to me on the TV right now. He's probably wondering what the fuck's happening. But I went to the back room to talk, so I didn't hear myself. Yeah, no, man. Hey, love the show. Love Silverstein. You already know it. The Race Shouts holding it down for the underground. And that's just my piece.
Well,
And
appreciate it.
man, God bless y'all. Let's go.
All right,
Let's
you as well.
fucking
Was there a
make it
question in
happen.
there or no?
Let's bring it around. Hopefully they all, I doubt they'll come around and see the truth, but they're so close. They're so close. But maybe one day we'll all see that there's bigger demons than their neighbors.
Amen
And we're all
to that.
hoping we get to the same common ground.
Well, I appreciate you calling in, man. I don't think.
Hey, appreciate y'all.
But all right, you have a good one.
Hey, y'all too. Thank y'all.
All right, bye.
Later, brother.
All I don't think there was a question there, but yeah. I agree.
I mean, yeah.
Oh, shit. I already got another one. You guys riff for a second.
Word. Yeah, I get where he's coming from as far as like it kind of like
we're all attacking each other instead of looking deeper. Yeah.
It's a perfect
That's the goal.
tie-in to the cognitive dissonance that I referred to earlier, basically just because I'm seeing it just thoroughly affecting both sides of the political spectrum as far as the culture war, the cultural divide. And I mean, honestly, you have one side, like their knee-jerk reaction is wishing that the shooter didn't miss and legitimately like verbalizing that. And then you have the other side who's viscerally over emotional and upset that you would ever even imagine questioning the reality of the event. And they're labeling people as conspiracy theorists and shaming and condemning them for doing so. But it's just like, in the end, right? Like, all that happened was further entrenchment on both sides of the spectrum. That's all. Just they're more and more entrenched into their ideological prison, their blinders fully, falling over their eyes. So therefore, it's, once again, the moment you question their political ideology, you become their enemy. And so I've realized that. I don't play the tribal politics partisan game, right? I don't fall into the trap, and therefore find myself surrounded by enemies very often. And I try my best.
You have the right, and I have the right attacking me right now because I quote tweeted libs of TikTok, and now I'm like,
oh, you're
like, my things are just like blowing up. I had to mute it.
All right, guys,
earlier the left was attacking me, so it's.
But we got the caller in here. You're on with Already Dead with Jose and Austin, and our guest BX. What's up?
What's up, dude? This is Grayfield.
What's
your boy
up,
Jules.
Julian?
What's up, guys?
What's up?
First off, I just wanted to say, killer fucking show tonight. Y'all never disappoint. BX, you're killing it. Yeah, man. I can't help but think that, and this is just my like schizo conspiracy mind, of course, but like that this is in some way pointing us towards this Antichrist agenda that the elites have planned, that they've been planning for years and years, you could say even decades or centuries. But yeah, it's just a lot of stuff is real weird. You got misinformation everywhere. You got theories of multiple shooters. And also, what the fuck was up with the fire hose? Did y'all see the truck with the hose that sprayed?
What? No.
Okay, so to the right of the bleachers, there was, I guess, a tractor, and it had some kind of hose on it. And it's like right as the shooting happened. You can find the video on X probably. I don't know. I think maybe Stu Peters posted it. I don't know where I saw it. But immediately after the shooting, this truck sprays like the whole side of the bleachers, all the people with water. It's like, what the fuck? Like, was there somebody over there that they didn't want to see?
That was a hydraulic hose that got hit with a bullet, I think. Like, that looks exactly what it looked like.
It got hit with a bullet.
Yep, it was a hydraulic hose. So it got hit, and then you can see it was a crane or something like that, and you can see it when it get hit start to go down. So it obviously lost hydraulic pressure, what was holding it in place. So, I guess, is that, I'm assuming that's, I don't know if you have some other angle of like what was up with that, like you thought there was intentionality in the spraying?
Yeah, man, that shit is
all right, that's the best explanation to me. I mean, I guess it could be a hose that someone sprayed people with for some fucking reason. But I'm pretty sure that like it looked like it was attached to some sort of crane or something, or like a high reach, what you used to do maintenance on high up spots. And then it hit it, and then it then went down. So which would correlate with a hydraulic hose being taken out.
I feel you. Well, yeah, dude. I mean. Well, even if this was a false flag or whatever you may call it, it's unfortunate that one guy had to lose his life. The guy sitting in the bleachers. So, God bless him and his family. Sucks, man. I mean, like I said, if it was some kind of psyop or false flag, then this always happens. People's lives are always sacrificed or jeopardized in some way to fulfill an agenda. So, also, last thing, I don't know if y'all saw, there was a theory of another shooter or something, had long hair, kind of looked like the guy, but it was like they were blaming it. And again, this is a theory, but that they were blaming it on this Crooks dude, but it was really this like left wing guy.
I think that the original.
Did y'all see anything about that?
Yeah, that guy was like.
PX is answering it now.
I think that his name was also Matthew Crooks, and he got confused with the shooter.
I can't hear you. What was that?
Oh,
you can't hear her.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Well,
that's why I told him he's been watching the show, so I assumed he knew. But yeah, she's talking right now. You can't hear. I got to figure it out. I think there's a way I can get some sort of fucking newfangled thing at some point. I'll probably maybe give it to Adam, our producer, so he can use it. But yeah, no, it's just me and you talking. They can hear you, but they can't talk to you. But yeah, she was addressing it, which dude. I guess once you get off, we can talk about that. I also do want to talk about the Antichrist angle, because as silly as that sounds, I do think it's like a fun thing interesting thing to talk about. And I think there is an angle to that. You don't even have to be that schizo to be like, what the fuck? Like, I mean, whether you're saying I think maybe you could say you are if you're saying that was intentionally for that reason. But if you're like, this may fall in place, because I wouldn't be the least bit surprised if between the Jews that believe in their prophecies, and then the Christians that believe in their prophecies, these things match up a lot. So I wouldn't be surprised if between those two groups, a lot of people start seeing these patterns and going, whoa, look at this. Because I mean, this is such a crazy like movie moment. And it is like, if you were looking for your Messiah figure, it's like, I can see a lot of people like get wrapped up in that. But yeah, no, I don't know if there's anything else you got to say, Julian, before we move on and like kind of talk about those 2 points you brought up.
No, man, that Antichrist thing is pretty crazy, especially when you read the Revelations chapter, and it talks about he'll have a wound to his head and people will follow him more, basically. Then the guy has a golden, whatever it is, Ark of the Covenant inside of his Mar-a-Lago place, and then printed his own Bible. It's just very uncanny stuff. It's just weird shit, man. Mm-hmm. Weird shit in this fucking world stage that we live on.
I mean, the Bible is his favorite book, second to only Are the Deal.
Right.
I'm pretty sure he actually said that at Liberty University when his first go around, which was insane. but sorry, don't mean to cut you off.
Man. No, thank y'all for taking my call, dude, and it's great talking to y'all. Love y'all, and thank y'all for everything you do, man.
I appreciate it. Love you, brother. I'm sure I'll end up on your show sometime here soon, guys. Go check out Great Build. I'll see you, bud.
Soon, as soon as possible, dude.
Yeah, all right. We'll see you. Bye. All right, cool. Yeah, no, I guess I'll let you finish up your thought, BX, on the... I thought we were kind of talking about it earlier. That's what I was getting at earlier in the show. Was like yeah, that's what I'm saying. There was the two different pictures, and it was clearly not the same guy.
There were three. So the first one was a guy whose name Matthew Crooks, who got confused for the shooter, and he leaned into it Sam Hyde style. And started trolling people, which can you blame him? I mean, how often in your life are you going to be confused for a presidential assassin? You got to make the best of it, right? And then the other guy started his picture started going around 4chan, which is the most reliable source of conspiracies, as you know. And the guy was like a guy who'd been protesting and arrested for protesting at Trump rallies before, but it was very obvious it wasn't the same guy because he had like gauged ears, and the shooter who was dead, you could very clearly see his earlobes were not gauged.
I saw somebody make the argument that it looked like he could have allegedly had like the surgery.
Yeah,
after.
it
I heard
got
some
wild.
bullshit
They were
about
like,
that.
yeah, he had corrective surgery to get
Yeah.
rid of it so that they
It was
could
very
pass it
clearly
off.
not the same guy.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
clearly.
Like, I mean, they both kind of had that like dysgenic look where you're like, they just kind of look
Yeah.
like shit, but like they were very clearly had different facial structures and were
Yeah.
different people.
Oh, yeah,
So it's
no
like,
doubt.
this isn't an older version of it. Like, I'm sure, yeah, okay, the one with the ear holes could probably in a Hollywood movie, play the older version of him or something like they do in
Right.
movies. But
Yeah.
in reality, you're like, is this the same person? No. Like, it's very clearly a different person. This
You
isn't
see,
just
they
an
have
aged
like
up.
geometry on his face
Yeah.
to try
Oh,
to show you how it's like this
100%,
in
dude.
total 4chan autism
Yeah.
style.
Yep.
But yeah, I do want to talk about whether Trump could be the Antichrist, because it's funny. This has been a thing we've talked, like me and some of my Skizzles buddies just for fun have talked about before. Of like this could be a thing because I mean, it's very clear he's very pro-Israel, and he's which that is a huge part. No matter how you feel about the stuff going on in Israel, Gaza. If you understand biblical prophecy, when it comes to the Jews, a lot of it is tied up in getting the Temple of the Mount back or whatever, and then kind of getting the land back. That's a lot of that plays into it. So there is some credence to this guy, and then on the Christian side of things, people will love him for doing helping out Israel. That's a huge part in it. And I'm not trying to go full full neo-Nazi or whatever the fuck, like, oh, it's all about Israel. But if you look at the Judaic religions and like they're like, especially the way they're interpreted today and their prophecies, a lot of it does always get interpreted as being tied up with Israel, and like that's part of Christianity's narrative of the coming, because that's also part of Christianity's prophecies that essentially they'll rebuild the temple, which is part of the same thing. That's where the Jewish prophecies and Christian prophecies overlap. And so if you have a guy who's had the most coolest superhero moment ever for a political figure, and he's coming in at a time where they're having really bad PR, and this is the guy who would be the perfect vessel to turn that around, and kind of have a Hollywood story behind him in the making, and it just would be kind of perfect for all these people out there. And it's this weird thing where a lot of Christians, it's almost like they try to fulfill the prophecy. So even if they were like, oh, he's the Antichrist doing these things, they just kind of be like, oh, but it's fulfilling prophecy, So it's like, whatever. Well, I mean, they may not necessarily support it explicitly, but at the very least they're kind of like, we're not going to try and stop this. Like, we want to all go to heaven, right? Like,
100%. No,
so it sounds crazy, but I remember having these conversations with my parents when I was a Christian kid when I was little with the first Iraq War, and they were interpreting it that way. And the current things going on now are way more on the nose than it was back then, like with prophecy. So it's like, I mean, or at least the way that they interpret it, because I mean, I can get in the weeds. I'm not religious, but I can get in the weeds, and I'm of the opinion that the way they interpret Israel in the Bible is not the way that Israel is interpreted now. So I think even by Christian doctrine, they're misinterpreting things. I think it's like more of a people than it is and actually, Jesus interpreted Israel as his people. So it's not even necessarily like Jews. He actually, theoretically, Christians are the real Jews. You know what I mean? So, at least by their beliefs. So
didn't Mike Pompeo even come out and literally claim that he was a part of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse in the scripture, and that his goal was to usher in the end times
Pompeo?
revelation? Dude,
I'm sure that wasn't like General Flynn or something. That does not sound like Pompeo.
No, I'm dead
Pompeo's
serious.
the spook, dude. You sure?
Dude, I know. I'm 100%
okay.
sure.
Right.
Yeah,
He
like,
does not seem like the conservative Christian
I'm
evoking
telling
prophecy
you,
kind of guy.
He 100% referenced as being a member, as far as seeing himself as one of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, and his role was to usher in the biblical end time. I swear, man.
That's
and
wild.
it's strange as hell. I mean, certainly go look it up, but yeah, I just remember, and this was years ago that this happened, because it was during Trump's administration that it occurred. But 100%, like, it just goes to show, like, if he honestly believes that, I mean, then the absurdity as far as the mentality and perspective behind some of these guys, some of these neocon swamp monsters that he allegedly was going to drain, but again, we all saw he's the number one cuck for Israel. right? Like that's a fact, right? And there's so much involved with the notion of reestablishing the Temple Mount and all this shit that's going on with Gaza and the Palestinians, and so much of that has been basically misrepresented as this biblical prophecy that's playing out in modern times. And at least this is my opinion. I think that it's basically been generated and manufactured by the state, and they've leaned into it to create this false narrative that clearly a vast majority of individuals, especially in this nation, are going to, just consume very happily. You know what I mean? It's not going to take much for them to fall into that trap. And so once again, it's ordained by God. It's in order, to like commit basically a genocide, right? And that's the slippery slope that we find ourselves in. But so yeah, I could 100%. And he's basically being worshipped as it is, right? And again, seeing the public reaction to this, they're deifying him. He is a god. I mean, like at this point, he is the right-wing MAGA god. I mean, it's legitimately been the reaction to this.
I'm not gonna lie, it's hard not to get swept under it. It's pretty fucking cool.
No, I get it.
Like it's pretty fucking cool. Like you see him walking the RNC, I felt like a WWE walk-in.
Yeah,
like that's
also gay to me, though, dude. Like it's so gay to me. Like honestly, but it's just anytime you so quickly become the cult member worshiping the state. And because you get to choose which brand, which version that represents the state that you prefer. And again, most people just like he owns the libtards. That's basically the main thing that attracted him.
Real quick, guys, we have a guest who's been waiting in the back for a while. This is one of the people who pays us, so he gets to be a face on the screen. So if you guys want to stop being pores and you want to show up on the screen, I know we haven't got a lot of chats today, but this is the nature of it. When we get a lot of calls, a lot of people coming in, you guys don't matter because you're the pores. So give us money and you can come on screen. So just kidding. I love you all. Welcome back, buddy? Client number 9. You're a repeat offender. What's up, my man?
How's it going? Something I'm curious about. Awesome discussion, by the way, and you've covered pretty much everything I was hounding Austin with today. One thing I noticed, though, and I'm curious your thoughts, is how it's become fashionable among like mainstream voices like Patrick Bet-David, and I saw Tim Kennedy had a thing. All these people who are kind of like back to blue, and everybody does, now they're like these fucking DEI hires, and they're like just trashing. Like I'm not trying to defend like the feds or the Secret Service reaction or anything, but it just seems weird that like people with really big platforms are just dunking on like all the same concepts they stuck up for about 5 days ago. It's kind of interesting. And then you mentioned it earlier about the like Trump's becoming, it's almost like a religion. Well, the previous religion was kind of like the DEI thing, so it's almost like competing religions, or at least euphemisms for it. And I'm curious your thoughts on that, and then I'll get out of your hair. But yeah, everybody should become a patron. Pay these dudes.
And that plays in interestingly narratively if you're going with everyone's blaming the woke DEI, like, oh, look how incompetent all these people are. I did want to bring up before, like, it's sounding that we don't have a resignation from the head of the Secret Service or anybody in that organization. And I think how this is going to play out, and we've already seen it. There was an official statement from, I believe, the Secret Service saying, oh, we want to make sure we value our police partners and we're not in no way blaming them for anything, because they've been kind of saying stuff, sort of blaming them, not really. Yeah, fault. Essentially blaming the local cops. So this is what will happen is they'll kind of like accuse each other, but not accuse each other. And when this is all said and done, no one will really end up taking any responsibility, because they'll diffuse the responsibility to such a degree that no one knows who to blame. And we just move on and go, oh, just hope this doesn't ever happen again.
The video of them not being able to get over their own fence was pretty bad. And the fact that he shot from the roof of the building that a lot of them were in was also pretty bad. But yeah. It just interested me, though, especially Patrick Bet-David, because he's a little bit more mainstream and just going hard on all things diversity. I was like, interesting.
Yeah, they're always playing that angle, man.
Yeah.
Like the other day I saw they had like can he hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, he can.
Yeah, he can hear you. He's on StreamYard. So
I had this thing, they had this the laptop fire on a airplane, like a passenger's laptop caught on fire. There was smoke. They were trying to evacuate it, and everybody was like, see what DEI is doing? And I was like, are you like they're not even, it's almost like they parrot these narratives without even like thinking about it. It's like a bot that sees keywords and just erroneously starts spurring out.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if the dude who didn't shoot till after the shooter got off 5 shots was a female to male trans, like
we over.
They're getting good, yeah.
Right. 100%, dude. No,
So,
I find that I think that honestly that falls right into my point from earlier about how I do really think that this is like it. Honestly, it's just in the vein of the culture war. It's just another like I do believe that just as serious and just as much of a problem as Trump derangement syndrome is, I think it's almost as equally a problem, Trump savior complex or the Trump savior syndrome, because you're just putting your faith back into the state, back into the system that
I agree with you.
has only facilitated more and more. At least I don't know what the statistics are on human trafficking at this moment, but it's staggering. And
like 60,000 or something kids that are.
It's absurd, man.
Yeah.
And
what
so,
I was gonna, with the cult thing though, look at the left and like I saw this video where Joy Reid was like, even if Biden is hooked up to tubes in a coma, I'm gonna vote for him. And I'm just like imagining this like dead man hooked up to tubes with a shrine around him and people praying to him to save the country. And I'm like, holy shit, this is the left's cult. Like at least we have like one that's kind of got badass memes and like survived the bullet. And they've got an old man dying in a hospital room hooked up to tubes, like in a shrine.
Yeah, it wasn't even that. She was like, I'll vote for him over Hitler. And then those same people now all of a sudden want to,
funny.
Yeah, and then she was kind of like snaps up about it, like, oh yeah, I'll vote for him in a coma over Hitler. And now all of a sudden they want to disavow that they ever said that. Like that couldn't motivate somebody to want to, like if you were, I don't know if you remember.
Hitler? That's crazy.
Exactly. Like when you hear all this stuff, like kids in middle school and stuff, like, oh, if I was alive back then, I'd have shot him. Like, the idea that you could motivate somebody with that's pretty not far fetched. But I'll get out of your hair. Thank you so much, and great show.
Appreciate you coming on, bud. If I was on that plane, they wouldn't have hit the towers.
Yeah, right? Exactly.
Exactly, dude.
All right, we'll see you, bud.
Or whatever.
Later on.
Yeah.
Have you seen when Roger Stone went on? I actually went right before I went on Jackman Radio with the guys. I watched the Roger Stone episode they did, and I heard him pitch this theory, right? And I know Roger Stone, political hack job. Clearly, he's like, kind of a swamp creature himself, and was very deeply involved with like, at least he was in the know in regard to the child trafficking, sexual blackmail operations that especially were going on with Roy Cohn and things of that nature with Trump's mentor, who was essentially running little boys, by the way, for political blackmail, purposes of political blackmail. And
he was also running QAnon and Pizzagate behind the scenes too, playing both sides.
I hear this. I know it's pretty amazing, honestly, when you look into Roy Cohn, and also that the Process Church, according to David Berkowitz, the Process Church of the Final Judgment was supplying young children to Roy Cohn and his parties he would have at his Massachusetts residence with these political elites and all of this. And so it's just, again, like, what are we doing here? But my point being, I thought it was insane that he pitched this theory that basically this was before the debacle of the debate and everything that happened, where the narrative started to become, who are we going to replace Biden with, and on the left, and so I heard him pitch this idea of the fact that basically Biden will be forced to step down, or he could die, obviously, and then he will be forced to, basically the DNC will have him forfeit his delegates. And that this was the strategy that they could actually utilize in order to replace Biden with, let's say, a Kamala, who, in my opinion, they don't really concern themselves with her political capital, because I don't really think anybody is under the impression that she has a chance to win an election. So it would be easier. They could just leave Biden in to take the fall, but at the same time, only a consideration and something that caught my ear as soon as I heard, especially Roger Stone mention it as his prediction. So anyway, very interesting. I just wanted to know like what you think about that. Like what is your, I'm curious just to hear your opinion on the narrative surrounding potentially replacing Biden in general, because I just think it's certainly possible. It could be some sort of October surprise situation. Who knows? I'm not sure, but
I feel like there's no point in even fighting this wave. Like that's my take. Like why
Not at
try
this
to even
point.
get a like you're better off to like either throw Kamala in there and let her go to the wolves, or keep Biden in and just kind of start trying to get your hooks in and
Hook them up to
trying
wire, hook them up to
trying
some
to
tubes and
start trying to manipulate Trump, just for the inevitable, because he's going to almost certainly get reelected. Like I just don't know how. Although like who knows? Maybe they'll have the balls. I mean, they tried to kill him, whoever they is, but maybe they'll have the balls to pull some election shenanigans. But I cannot imagine, especially if Biden stays the candidate, if they go through all this, they run Biden as a feeble old man as he is, and then we have this essentially what's a fucking war hero to everyone now.
Right.
Fucking like if they take that, it's not gonna be believable, and people that would be one of the biggest dominoes to drop at that point.
I don't think that the left can out. I don't think the left can out influence the right.
Oh no. The pendulum will naturally swing anyway.
Yeah.
Well, I'm saying like they should do what they did last time he was in and just go ahead, start to get prepared to do that. Essentially, get ready to manipulate him to do their will in whatever way that is. I mean, they kind of finessed him his last term. The powers that be basically got everything they want, just maybe a little bit slower than they normally would. They may have had to really coax him a little bit more, as opposed to Biden just going, okay, yep.
You're right.
But they fucking with, like, he initially came in saying he was going to be, want to, start being diplomatic with Russia, and then, oh, you're a Russian agent, and then he's like, well, I'll show you how fucking hard I am on Russia. And you're like, Jesus Christ, dude, like, you're literally doing like, could you be any more retarded?
Right.
like I'm gonna really show you how not for Russia I am.
Right. That's another thing though that I did find very interesting, was the idea that if it were the CIA, like, because people were making that claim that the CIA tried to kill Trump, right? If it were the CIA, I know that the feds are unimpressive. I know they've been very sloppy in the past. I also know that I have just read about too many CIA operations and covert operations where they intended it to be sloppy by design, because there were, like, we're covering in Watergate right now, Jose, like, you have all these moving parts, all these different incentives and motivations at play. You had, and to me, I just find it kind of ridiculous that if the CIA wanted to kill Trump, it feels like they would kill Trump. Like, it's just very hard for me to...
Little scrawny kid who couldn't hit shit got kicked out of his rifle club for not being able to hit.
Mm-hmm. So that part's ridiculous to me. Right now, where you go as far as how you kind of interpret what that means, is up to you. Because I think there's a couple directions you could take that, but it's just, at the very least, like, I don't know. The same. I know it's not the same, and I know it's not the Op 40 guys from JFK, but it's still like, come on, you can do better than that. And not that I'm wishing that somebody, you know what I mean? But it's just still, it's like, what a sloppy op, right?
Yeah.
Unless your goal, like I said, and I mentioned earlier, a potential plausible narrative where they could have maybe a secondary tactical team set up nearby. I don't know. You never know. Just saying.
Yeah.
And the kid was potentially a patsy, right?
Yeah.
Well, then my only point being, right? Like, what if they strategically, right? They wanted to miss, and it wasn't legitimately, like, as far as, look, and I know that, like, logistics wise, like, my only point being, what if the kid fired blanks and there was a tactical team of shooters, or a shooter just individually, nearby who was actually firing the shots, right? That to then take out, let's say, collateral damage scenario, take out a Trump supporter, sacrifice a Trump supporter, so the op seems real. I'm just saying, like, to act
I don't
as
want to
if
go watch the movie Shooter again now. You guys are.
I know it sounds.
I mean, they brought up the
ridiculous.
hose earlier, but if you were trying to
They
look
say
at
that
it
was
as
in the
like staging
crossfire.
it, that would be a good way to show, oh, there's clearly damage.
Right,
So
right.
that way it's visual. Oh, they hit the
Exactly.
hydraulic hose, boom.
So now
but
there
yeah,
are
I
bullets.
get.
It
We're
sets the narrative
schizoing here.
that there are bullets. Couldn't be blanks, right? No, I know. I know what it seems
But
like.
I mean, like, you're right. Like, I mean, that movie was great. Like, if you haven't seen the movie Shooter, like, it's one of the best movies ever.
I haven't actually.
Really? Go watch it right now.
Oh,
Wait,
the
Mark
Wahlberg
Wahlberg,
one, right?
Mark
I
Wahlberg.
started it. I never got into it.
Yeah. Anyways,
turned it.
that
I
is
was watching
actually how they would pull that shit off and succeed. Because it's actually just so high tech that. But yeah, what they did there was like they made it look like it was a presidential assassination attempt and another guy got shot, but it was like the ambassador for another country. And they said, oh, he's aiming for the president, but missed. But actually it was a hit on the ambassador. And they had like just staged it to look like a presidential assassination to like, take the heat off of them or whatever. It was
That's
good.
why everyone's joking.
Yeah.
What is this fire chief? What's up with this guy?
Yeah, I know, right? I've seen that.
Yeah, I know. People were
this guy?
schizoing hard. They were like, well, he works at a
100%.
factory. The factory is out of China and all of these things. And like, what's up with this company? Let's dig it. I'm like, you are.
If you follow the money, it goes back
way
to the
too out
Rothschilds.
there,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
I did
although
somebody off a cliff who was going down that path. I was like, you need to back up. Come back.
Yeah, I just struggle to believe that in this day and time they'd be able to pull off something so slick and not get caught. So I think this is something that they probably. I think that I don't know if this was legit. Like, I mean, the way I see it is maybe there could be this thing where like they plan for failing as well. Like if it fails, then this. But if we pull it off, cool. Because it is, as I was alluding to, Trump is ripe for playing these cards. So this could be like hey, we prefer whoever the left guy is going to be, and so we'd like to take him out, but here's our do or die moment, and if we fuck up, we already have plans in place for how we'll manipulate him to get what we want later, and whatever, now we move on type deal. I don't fucking know. That would make sense to me, as opposed to actually trying to fake it. That would be way too much going on. I mean, you're dealing with, if you're assuming that this guy actually did shoot, now maybe blanks, maybe something, but if you're assuming this guy did shoot, people are trying to be like, oh, he missed on purpose. It's like, I mean, 150 yards isn't that far, but now you're already you got a solid grouping,
right? No,
so it's like you're working with such a margin of error that you're like,
I agree with you. I agree with you. I honestly,
like, even if you're John Horiuchi, fucking often
Lon
fucking
Horiuchi.
or Lon or John, what was it?
Lon,
whatever.
Lon.
Oh, Lon, whatever.
Yeah.
But even if you're him,
Weaver.
You're probably not gonna be able to pull that hit a ear at fucking perfectly. That 9 times out of 10.
That
my only consideration. You've heard me talk about Dr. Robert Duncan and the modern Manchurian and using actual Neuralink style brain chips as a strategy as well, beyond post-hypnotic suggestion. And basically they've modernized and have even more sophisticated MK Ultra techniques that are possible at least, that they could utilize at any time operationally. And then the idea that, they had these modern Manchurians. Basically, anyway, my whole point is that it's at the very least, like, I consider these things because when you read about James Holmes, when you read about, like I continue to say, Stephen Paddock, and every single time there's some strange MK Ultra connection to the intelligence apparatus, and I'm just saying I would remain skeptical, of course, but just remain open-minded to more information coming out. That's all I'm saying, because who knows what could happen.
Do you remember the El Paso shooter?
Yeah.
The Walmart shooter?
Yeah, I remember.
Well, I started looking into his dad, and his dad actually worked for a mental hospital that was linked to, you seem like you're pretty well versed in Manchurian stuff, right? But have you heard of Colin Ross? He wrote a book called The CIA Doctors. The El Paso shooter's dad worked at a mental hospital at the Colin Ross Institute.
Oh my God.
And that guy is doing false memory implantation to like get out multiple personalities and like creating multiple personalities. There's entire subreddits dedicated to this guy who is like a fascinating figure. You could either love him or hate him.
Wasn't it Adam Lanza and James Holmes' dads were both involved in the LIBOR scandal?
Yeah, the LIBOR scandal.
The what
Get
scandal?
the fuck out of here. That's just the craziest narrative of all time.
The LIBOR
scandal. It basically was like, so LIBOR is like, it was really just a huge scam to control global interest rates in a way, like in global asset markets and all of this. Yeah,
octopus style shit.
100%. And by the way, it was like, this comes from investigative journalist Kenneth Shorthen Jr., who wrote a story in the Examiner with the title "LIBOR Scandal Link." So the fathers of two mass murderers, Lanza and Holmes, were set to testify, he explains, in the wake of the mass murders that took place in Newtown, Connecticut on December 14th. Information on the shooter and his family is slowly being discovered by law enforcement and other sources. One interesting connection to the tragedy that took place at the Sandy Hook school is that the father of Adam Lanza has a connection to the theater shootings that took place in Aurora less than 5 months earlier by James Egan Holmes. Both fathers of the shooters were allegedly expected to testify in the LIBOR scandal that rocked the world of high finance in June. The father of Newtown, Connecticut school shooter Adam Lanza is Peter Lanza, who's a VP and tax director at GE Financial. The father of Aurora, Colorado movie theater shooter James Holmes is Robert Holmes, the lead scientist for the credit score company FICO, also heavily involved with DARPA. His grandpa's like deep in military intelligence, like super fucked up. And so both men were set to testify before the U.S. Senate in the ongoing LIBOR scandal, which is the London Interbank Offered Rate, known as LIBOR, and is the average interest rate at which banks can borrow from each other. 16 international banks have been implicated in this ongoing scandal, accused of rigging contracts worth trillions of dollars.
I mean, this reads like the modern day version of the weird scenes from Inside the Canyon, right?
It does, right? It's just so crazy when you get into the detail.
I remember still when we were looking into that Kyle Spitz 764 stuff, and that just kept getting crazier and crazier and crazier. And then we find out that his mom works for Lockheed Martin.
What the fuck? That's the guy that groped his mom on like a live stream,
his dead
right?
mom worked for Lockheed Martin. And the dad threatened Ken Silva by saying that he had a top secret security clearance and would like get a PR firm to like go after him if he talked.
Oh, he'll probably get David Gleddy.
What is happening right now? Like I'm just that blew my mind because I was in the middle. I was at the ground floor where I was like the primary drop on that. And so personally, just to witness that happening, for days, I was just like in a stupor, like what is going on?
Yeah, I bet. I just can't get over it. It's too much, like
you should look into the I don't think anybody's ever publicly talked. I think that there was like one post some fringe website about Crucius's dad. But yeah, he worked for this mental institution in Dallas that got shut down for abusing patients. It recently got shut down. His dad worked there at the False Memory Institute with Colin Ross.
No, that's too much.
How do you rectify that?
That's too much for me. Yeah, I can't handle that one.
You can't handle it.
At least he wasn't in the peak soldier performance program like James Holmes,
Jesus
Christ. Jesus, man.
He goes too deep.
Mm-hmm. Well, all right, guys, we've gone for an hour 45. I do want to remind you guys that I know we talked about Lanza, but just Sandy Hook was all on the up and up. Whatever the official narrative was, that's what it is. Although for no reason at all, just to parrot the official narrative, I'll be having my buddy Tim Tuttle on the show on Thursday. This will be behind the paywall till next week, and we'll be talking about it. And maybe it might have something to do with PatCon. He might be making connections there, but obviously still the official narrative. Just maybe a little bit more to it. I'm just saying. But that whenever that does come out. Yeah, just asking questions. Whenever that comes out, that will be on Rumble only, and and on the audio, but not on YouTube because I'm not retarded. But BX, you want to let people know where they can find you at, and we'll go ahead and get out of here.
Yeah. Well, so most of my research and stuff is on X at BX_on_X. And there's a link in the bio, where you can find my Substack. I know. Sorry to let you down. But it's actually pretty great. There's Substack. I've been trying to publish a lot of stuff there. So BX_on_X. Click the link in the bio. You can get all my stuff there.
Hell yeah. Austin?
Yeah. BX, thanks for coming on and talking to us. Honestly, like I'm
Anytime.
a huge fan since I discovered you through Jose, and I just think what you're doing is beautiful, and just as far as trying to protect the most vulnerable among us, and I just want to say thank you for that, honestly, because you are doing you're doing God's work, as they say. So it was awesome to have a conversation with you. I hope that I didn't get too schizo. I was trying to to remain measured.
A very high tolerance of schizo. It's all right.
Hell yeah.
You're scaring off the hose, Austin.
Hey, I'm doing my best. At least, did you see that hilarious video of the shooter saying he had a 10-inch dick?
Yeah.
That was my favorite. Any kid in my high school class, but yeah.
100%.
He's at Stanford. That was one thing I thought was weird that no one picked up on. Because Stanford.
That is interesting.
Is that an Ivy League school?
Stanford?
Yeah.
He says he was at Stanford, and he was also in the BlackRock commercial, which we didn't really talk about.
Yeah, I remember.
But apparently he was going to school at Stanford, which I find that to be, I don't know. I mean, I guess it doesn't necessarily mean anything, but it's like, if you said Stanford and we have glowy stuff going on, I'm like,
it's one of the MK Ultra schools, so
yeah. So I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? But all right, anyways, go on, Austin.
So that's basically it, and you can find all of my work. You can support me on Buzzsprout at the Underclass Podcast. You can support me on Patreon at the Underclass Podcast, and just check it out. I should have my YouTube up within a couple days. It should be up by tomorrow, hopefully. So, but yeah, it'll be up soon. And other than that, follow me on Instagram at the Underclass Podcast, on Twitter at Underclass Pod.
Hell yeah. Keep in mind, he said he's making the YouTube right now where it's been going out, and I'm letting you guys know this for a reason. This right now, as it currently stands, this show streams to my YouTube, my Rumble, and then the Tower Gang YouTube as well, just because why not? But might as well leech off that audience since I'm in there anyways. But for you Tower Gang people, if you're still watching this on the Tower Gang channel, you need to come over to my channel, my Rumble channel, or Austin's as soon as he makes it, because it sounds like next week we'll probably be streaming to my YouTube, my Rumble, and his YouTube. So we can start building up his YouTube. Hopefully maybe we can get his ass monetized, since I got demonetized a long time ago. That way we can start taking super chats from you guys. But yeah, if you guys do want to support me, the patreon.com is NoeJose2020. The lowest level is $2. That's how you get that early stuff. The highest level is my sponsors. I read them off every episode. Of my co-hosts on Tower Gang at Tower Gang Toad, at Abrogate D's, at ZOVERACK, at _Infinite Zeal, then Jacob Daniel of the Biblical Anarchy podcast, at Biblical Anarchy. Then my homie Tim Tuttle at John Klebold. He's the one I'm about to have on Thursday, so we can schizo out on Schmandy Schmuck. So, because I'm sure I probably, I already said the word this episode.
I
already flagged it. I try to always say it otherwise, because I just feel like that probably insta flags it just for something, and then they start digging more. And then also my buddy Will Bell with his delicious rabbit eye wine, blueberry wine. You can get that online. It's good stuff. But yeah, follow me on Twitter at Tower Gang Jose. Thanks for coming, BX. It was a fun episode. We'll see you guys next week. Same time, 9:30 on a Tuesday. And yeah, we're out of here. Bye-bye.
Bye.